Let me get Tom Price in. He's a commodity analyst at UBS, joining me on the phone line from Sydney. Tom, good morning. Thanks so much for joining us. Just want to start with your call on gold and silver. A relatively steep sell-off on Friday. Steady trade, though, in Asia today.
Yes, it was a big sell-off in precious metals. The key reason for this could probably be assigned to the improved labour data out of the US and also a rise in US dollar. Both negatives for the precious metal space, mainly because precious metals have been lifting in the last couple of months on QE programs. And the need for QE, ongoing QE, is probably now going to be questioned with this improving macroeconomic outlook in the US. That's a problem for us at UBS because we're short-term bulls on gold and silver. And what we're holding out for now is an expanded quantitative easing program in the US and ongoing distress in Europe to support a bullish outlook on the precious metal space. And to give you an idea of how sort of bullish we are, we're thinking of a price of $1,900 an ounce by the second quarter next year. So plenty of upside with the recent sell-off.
That's an interesting call, Tom. What was the premise underpinning that call, that bullish call on gold?
It really is a bearish outlook on the US economy, basically, with an expectation that we'd have an expanded QE program in the US. So we've got a US Fed who's very concerned about the labour markets, an ongoing decline in the wage outlook there, and they'll move to support that. That's the case for our bullish call, and it's not playing out at this stage because of this positive labour data that's come through.
I guess a lot will also depend on how the US election plays out. But before I get into that, can I get a sense from you on how the industrial metal space is doing? I mean, there's always the China factor that adds on to the US and the Europe factor. Looking at the industrial metal space, doesn't look like there's too much bullishness there based on the economic stories.
Well, it's true. I mean, the quantitative easing programs, so that's QE3 in the US and the bond buying program by the ECB in Europe, they don't just drive precious metals, they're also key supports for industrial metals. And the ones that I think about are base metals, so that's copper, aluminium, nickel, zinc and lead, tin and so on. They've all responded in the last couple of months to Bernanke's announcement on QE3. Copper and nickel were perhaps the most sensitive to that announcement. And across most of those industrial metals, we saw a lift of 10 to 20% in nickel's case. So they were strong lifts, but they've come off. And the reason for that is that partly because the euphoria has passed. It was very difficult, I think, for metal trading markets to quantify the upside that was being made available by open-ended QE program in the US and also the uncertainty in Europe. But also this positive data coming out of the US is also weighing on industrial metals. So it's not just a precious metals negative point, it also affects industrial metals. And just speaking more broadly, the bulk markets, iron ore, which is obviously very important for India, and coal markets, these markets are less sensitive to sort of changes in macro policy in the US and Europe, mainly because they're mostly physical trades. They don't have sophisticated derivatives markets like the metal markets, and these haven't really responded that much to changes in QE policy. But we like them at UBS. We're short-term bulls on iron ore and coal because we're entering restocking season across Asia for both of coal markets and iron ore, and we're encouraging clients to think about equities tied to those markets.
All right, that's interesting. As you said, iron ore, coal, always relevant to India. You're bullish on those markets along with gold as well. Tom, thanks so much. Leaving it at that. I didn't get into an oil price discussion, but then oil prices have been relatively steady.
India's #1 news app just got even better. Download NDTV's new app. Fully optimized for retina display. Full screen view. Faster response time. And Sudoku. NDTV's new iPad app. Download now.